Hello everyone, hope you're having an excellent day today. I'm doing pretty good. Today in this video, I'm going to be breaking down and kind of revealing behind the scenes the planning process for making a large convention size model. The idea behind this large build is going to be Tron. I'm a big fan of both Tron movies, but the 2010 version has such a cool look, and I think that look would look really interesting in LEGO. It'd be very difficult to capture. Be a great challenge. Interestingly, this isn't the first time I've made anything Tron related. Back in 2020, I started working on a theme mashup of Castle Tron. But just as I was starting to get some momentum, I got contacted to be on the second season of LEGO Masters, and that went pretty well for me. We had a great time. But I never got back into the theme of Castle Tron, and I'm really excited to kind of bring that back and kind of return to that original plan to build something cool that's Tron related. In this case, I'm going to drop the castle moniker because I think that Tron as an idea itself stands perfectly fine on its own, doesn't need any extra layers or any extra story there to really capture the audience's attention. I think that it'll also be more recognizable if it's just, oh, that's Tron. It's a movie. Most people are at least vaguely familiar with the concept. Now that I have a basic premise for what I want to build, I can kind of go through the top priorities for this mock and hopefully have a great outline to build from moving forward. The purpose of this build is going to be to bring to conventions. That's going to be its intended audience. Something you really need to calculate before you start building is who it's going to be presented to, what's the main purpose. So convention build, and that automatically determines what kind of size we can do, what kind of presentation quality it should have. It should be big, it should be viewed from multiple angles, a cityscape, you know, so multiple buildings, pretty big display. I want it to fit on a standard 8-foot table, and that automatically gives us a footprint or a frame to work with. So convention build. Number 2, I want this to be a very modular build in contrast to my previous build, which is still sitting over there. This is all being filmed before going to Atlanta BrickCon in just a few weeks this time. But yeah, I tried to skip the setup process by building it all in one chunk. Turns out building it all in one chunk is very impractical, and I'm going to be going back to an extreme modular system. And because this build is intended to be very modular, I'm going to have to be very careful with how I integrate the lighting, which is probably point number 3. This is going to be an extremely illuminated creation. If you've watched the 2 Tron movies, they're both very big on the special effects, including the lighting and the way that the entire world is presented. It's not just like kind of ambient lighting like this. Everything has lines and seemingly neon lights everywhere. It's very unusually lit. And trying to capture that in LEGO, I think that I finally garnered enough experience to do that. Rock Raiders has tons of lights inside of it. It's working with transparent elements to illuminate those and still keep the wires and lights hidden. A little bit before Rock Raiders, I was working on the giant world serpent. I had a lot of blue bricks and lights from that, so I'll be able to transfer a lot of these skills and tricks that I've accumulated over the past couple years and apply that very well into lighting, I think. It's kind of one of our gimmicks, one of our fallbacks. I love to make lighting. I think it'll work out great. Another point I really want to focus on is making some iconic Tron vehicles. In both movies, they have kind of a similar style for a couple of different things. One of them is the light cycle. It's a motorcycle that they ride around in. It's pretty standard in both movies. There's a recognizer, which is a big kind of rectangular vehicle that's shown in the video game, and in both movies, it's the bad guy ship. You've got some tanks that the bad guys use, these kind of sci-fi looking tanks. Just a bunch of different vehicles that I'm hoping to replicate at minifigure scale for this display. And a couple of them will be orange in contrast to the black and light blue city. So I think that'll be a nice color palette and a very interesting and cool look. Final point that I had kind of mentally ascribed to this build was that it should be totally and obviously Tron. One of the problems of the last build that I made, Rock Raiders, was that everyone stopped to look at it. Everyone really liked it, but I would say 90% or more of people that saw it had no idea what they were looking at. They're like, oh, look at the cool thing. They didn't know. Not a lot of people grew up with Rock Raiders like myself. It's kind of a niche LEGO theme for a specific year. Not everyone's played the video game, so there's a lot to explain, and because of that, I think that Tron is definitely more recognizable than Rock Raiders, but I can up the recognition factor even more with things like maybe it'll say Tron somewhere on it. It'll have maybe a little plaque with some information. Rock Raiders is basically left blank on the table, figure it out. So hopefully it's like, oh look, it's Tron. Oh, I recognize that. That little spark of recognition versus just kind of like, wow, that looks cool. I have no idea what it is. That's probably my final goal for this build, but let's kind of circle back to the design concept a little bit. I have a piece of paper in front of me. I'm going to draw out some things I was thinking about. So we have an 8-foot table. This is not going to be to scale, but it's just a rectangle. That's the shape we're going to be working with. Honestly, a cityscape is a good fit for this kind of size footprint that we're working with. You can have a bunch of nice tall buildings arranged in a vertical and horizontal presentation. The back of the table will have access to wiring and such like that. Now, originally I was thinking line up all the base plates like a grid. Tron is all about the grid. So having them lined up, just facing the front edge of the table, kind of like this table here, would make sense. But my brother, Steven, recommended a fun little twist on that idea. He's like, it would be kind of plain Jane if you did it that way. So what if you kind of gave it a little twist, literally gave it a twist and kind of put them all at an angle and creating kind of a zigzag pattern at the front, and all the buildings, instead of just being facing everybody, would kind of be at a interesting angle. I think that I'm going to go with that idea because I think it's more interesting than just another straight-on cityscape. You'll see different city builds at conventions, and they all kind of present the same way. This would give it a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a fun edge. Because this is going to be modular, all these different base plates are going to be at a little angle, something a little like that. But before filming this, I actually laid out some base plates and the size that it needs to be. And it turns out a couple 32 by 32s kind of lined up together make a nice section. And that also has a point at the back where the cord can then wrap over the back of the table. And each section will have its own power source connected to a central hub underneath the table at the back, meaning that this will transport very well. It'll be all different flat sections for the ground, but then they'll all also arrange on the table very nicely in a unique style. So I think that the foundations are pretty well established in my mind already. It's gonna be an easy place to start building from. As far as buildings, I have a couple concept images that I went and found online. I do like to build off of images. I think that's easy. It's a nice way to kind of remember what your goal is, what you're striving to build. So I have a couple concept images, some of them generated by AI pretty clearly, and I think they look pretty cool. I'm going to be doing approximately shapes like these and have, I think, about 5 large-scale city buildings on this 8-foot table display. And so there's going to be a variety of things. One's going to be kind of look like retro with some big, strong, light lines going up and down. One's going to be kind of a triangle-shaped footprint going up, kind of staggered, almost maybe not like a really steep pyramid, if you can imagine that. Another thing is going to look like a gate, and it's going to have a bridge going over a roadway. So kind of like the Brooklyn Bridge, if you can kind of imagine that picture. Hopefully I'm able to edit and present some of those pictures to you guys on the video as well. But yeah, a couple different ideas I'm really excited about. I'm thinking about what lighting and what wiring and what different transparent elements I need to collect in order to satisfy the needs of all these different buildings and start to part it out. Unfortunately, most of my black pieces are still tied up inside that big Rock Raiders build, but as soon as that starts to be disassembled, literally the day after Atlanta BrickCon, I'll have plenty of pretty much sorted black pieces to go build from, and that will be really easy to, again, speed up this process. I'm hoping to have Tron completely finished by May, for its first convention, which is, I believe, in Jacksonville for Brick Fan Expo. They're the guys who organize Atlanta BrickCon, and I'm excited to be working with them on a number of conventions this year. So I think this will be going to a number of places throughout the Southeast. I'll have a list posted in a future video. I'm hoping to cover pretty much from start to finish this build and be able to reference this and be like, hey, you want to see how it was built? Check out this playlist on YouTube. But thank you all so much for hearing me ramble about a Lego build for a couple minutes. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps more people see this video. I'll be posting more updates shortly as soon as I get some building done. I do have some pieces I can work with outside of Rock Raiders, so we'll see what I can accomplish before Atlanta BrickCon. We'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.